Hey you, thanks for stopping by. The day's done, so let's settle in and make ourselves comfortable. I brought a few stories to share. The salt shaker that was always nearly empty. On the kitchen table, the salt shaker never seemed full. Not empty, just mostly used. It was topped off occasionally, but no one ever filled it completely. There was always enough to use, but never enough to notice. The lid was slightly crooked, and the label had worn off. Still, everyone reached for it without looking. It had been part of the table setting for years, just passing salt without pride or complaint. No one knew where the matching pepper shaker went. The salt didn't seem to mind. The wind chime that didn't chime. Outside the window, a metal wind chime hung from a hook, but never made a sound. It didn't tangle or rust. The air just never moved it. Once, someone bumped it when closing the shutters. It rang once, softly, and then fell silent again. It caught sunlight beautifully and cast gentle shadows that moved slowly across the siding. No one took it down. No one waited for it to make noise. It didn't need to do anything to still be something. The basket that wasn't full or empty. Near the washer sat a plastic basket with a few clothes in it. Not enough for a full load. Not so little that it looked clean. Just that in-between amount that made it feel like it had a job without doing much. The socks didn't match. The shirt wasn't folded, but nothing smelled. Nothing was urgent. It had been like that for a while. No one rushed it. No one really noticed. It was just there, half finished, half forgotten, still doing fine. The pine needle that stayed on the floor. Near the door, one pine needle had stayed behind after the tree was taken down. It wasn't swept up. It wasn't crushed. Just left resting against the baseboard like it had chosen that spot. It didn't move when the door opened. It didn't catch the light, but it didn't gather dust either. It didn't get noticed often, but when it did, people left it alone. It felt like part of something, even if no one could say what. The juice ring under the fridge. Just beside the front leg of the fridge, a faint circle stained the tile. It was sticky once, probably from something sweet that spilled and had got cleaned up, just not completely. The ring didn't draw attention. It had dulled to the color of the floor over time. Not quite invisible, but not worth scrubbing. It caught a bit of light in the late morning, and then vanished again in shadow. No one remembered what had caused it. It was just there. Always had been. Probably always would be. The library card that stayed in the book. Inside a drawer, there was a book that no one had read in years. Tucked inside was a pale blue library card, bent slightly at one corner. The due date was too faded to read. The barcode had rubbed off from being handled too much. It wasn't wedged out like a bookmark, just resting loosely between the pages, like it didn't care if it stayed or slipped out. The book wasn't overdue. No one planned to return it, and the card didn't seem to mind. The tape that held nothing. On the window frame in the hallway, a small piece of tape had once held up something, a sign maybe, or a decoration, but whatever it was, had long since come down. The tape had faded to a dull amber. Its edges curled slightly, but still clung to the wood. No one peeled it off. No one added anything back. It just stayed where it had always been, holding onto nothing at all. It didn't feel forgotten, just finished. The nail that wasn't holding anything. Above the stairwell, there was a small nail in the wall, slightly tilted, with the faint outline of where a frame used to hang. The paint was a little brighter behind it, shielded from time. No one remembered what used to be there. Maybe a calendar, maybe a small mirror. Now it was just a bare nail stuck in place, not in the way, not especially visible unless you looked at just the right angle. It didn't bend or rust. It didn't snag anything. It simply stayed. People passed it going up and down, never stopping to question it. It wasn't removed. It wasn't repurposed. It was still just there, doing its job, even if the job no longer existed. The smudge that stayed on the mirror. On the bathroom mirror, a faint smudge near the bottom corner, never quite wiped away. Not toothpaste, not fingerprints, just a soft blur that resisted every cloth and cleaner. It didn't block your reflection. It didn't draw your eye unless the light hit it at a right angle. Most people stopped noticing after the first few days. It didn't grow or change. It didn't suggest anything was wrong. Just a small patch of haze on an otherwise clear pane. Sometimes people leaned closer without meaning to, then walked away. The mirror still reflected everything, but the smudge stayed exactly where it was, unbothered by its failure to disappear. The remote without a matching device. In a drawer full of odd cords and old keys sat a small black remote. No labels, no batteries, a single button worn slightly at the center. No one could remember what it belonged to. The last matching device was probably long gone, boxed or donated or thrown away years ago. Still, the remote stayed in the drawer, untouched but not discarded. Every time the drawer was opened, it shifted slightly, just a quiet little thud against a USB cable or half-used roll of tape. No one reached for it, but no one removed it either. It felt like it had earned its place, even if it didn't do anything anymore. The candle that was never lit. On the windowsill in the living room, there was a small candle in a frosted glass jar. It had never been lit, not once. The wick stood perfectly straight, untouched. A bit of dust had settled around the rim. The label had faded in the sun, but the scent, something like vanilla or maybe almond, lingered just barely in the air nearby. No one planned to light it. No one talked about saving it for something special. It simply existed, decorative by default, potential never achieved. Still, it belonged. It filled the space just fine by doing nothing at all. The cloud that took its time. One afternoon, a small, low cloud moved so slowly, it was hard to tell if it moved at all. It wasn't the only one in the sky, just the quietest. Others thinned out or scattered. This one kept its shape, soft, ordinary, just a little uneven around the edges. At times, it looked like it was caught on something, Then it drifted a little further, like nothing had changed. It didn't block the sun or hint at weather. It just passed over the horizon with no real urgency and even less to say. The room that smells like old books. It's not a library, not exactly. Just a room no one uses much anymore. But the carpet hums with the silence, and the dust hangs politely in shafts of light. The pages on the shelves hold still, heavy with secrets, and the air smells like knowledge with nowhere to be. Vanilla, glue, faded ink, just a collection of stories with soft spines. The curtain that hangs slightly longer than the other, only by a thread, barely noticeable unless the light hits just right. Then it's obvious, not enough to bother fixing. It moves with the same wind, makes the same hush, just drags a touch more of the floor behind it. The mailbox that only opens from the front. It's always been there, bolted, plain, slightly off-center on the wooden post. The hinge squeaks just a little, but only in the winter. It doesn't lock, it doesn't need to. Envelopes come, circulars, coupons, sometimes nothing, but the slot is always waiting. You lift the flap, see darkness, maybe a rubber band. You never check it in the rain. Somehow, it always stays dry inside. You've never thanked it, never thought to, but your hands know the gesture without looking. Open, reach, close, repeat, and then walk away like nothing ever happened. The can with a dent and no purpose. The label is a little torn. Tomato soup, probably. You don't remember buying it. It's not expired, but you don't eat that kind. It's always there. Shoved to the back when you organize. Brought forward again when you forget. The dent gives it personality you didn't ask for. You won't open it. You won't throw it away. It's a fixture now, like a joke no one laughs at anymore, but no one stops telling. The vending machine that always has exact change. You never carry coins. You barely carry cash. But once in a while, you press the buttons. Plastic spirals unwind. A soft thud. You dig for the change slot, and there it is. 2 quarters, 1 dime, 1 nickel. Not generous, just correct. The machine doesn't blink or buzz. It remembers how to give you what's left, even when you don't remember the price. The stairwell handrail that's only sometimes needed. It rungs along the wall like punctuation. Some people use it, some don't. It doesn't judge, it never moves. It just stands there, waiting. You grip it once, then forget it. A child slides a palm across it. Someone in a rush bumps it without noticing. It remembers all of them, but none of it matters. It's always there, whether your balance asks for it or not. The flicker in the streetlight that never gets fixed. It doesn't blink often, just enough to remind you it's there. A slow, rhythmic hesitation in the dark. You wouldn't call it broken, more like uncertain. The light still lands on the sidewalk, still makes the moths swirl like lazy stars. But every few seconds, a pause, a blink, like it's unsure whether to keep trying. You've walked past it for years. You used to notice it more. Now it's just part of the route. The The flicker keeps its own time, separate from yours, and you let it. The towel that stayed folded too long. On a shelf in the hallway closet, a pale green towel had been folded neatly for years, not hidden, not further back than the rest, tucked behind more colorful, more favored ones. It never made its way to the bathroom, never got chosen for a spill, never ended up in the wash. It had no damage, no stains, just a slight bend in the corner where it had been creased for far too long. Each time the shelf was straightened, and it got restacked just as neatly, just as unused. The fabric softened over time without ever getting wet. It wasn't forgotten, it simply never called attention to itself, and that seemed to be working out just fine. And that's all I have for tonight. The stories have come to an end, so I'll be on my way. Sleep well, and maybe we'll meet again tomorrow.